ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ I hope you've been well. I hope you've been keeping safe. So ਆਪਾਂ ਪਿਛਲੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ about social media and how it affects men and how it affects everyone else and does it affect men. So ਅੱਜ ਦੀ question ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ and ਅੱਜ ਦਾ topic ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ we're going moving following what we said from last week, do men actually suffer from social media, but do they have any mental health issues come from that? Anxiety, depression, whatever moods that they're actually feeling, does it come from social media, and how does it affect their anxiety? Because do they want to talk about it? Do they not want to talk about it? Because in society they're seen in a certain way, they're seen in a certain perception, like a macho man. So if you're seen in a macho man, why is it not acceptable, or is it acceptable to discuss how you're feeling as a guy? You know, if you're feeling any low, if you're feeling anxiety, and is it coming from social media? So we're going to cover a lot of different things and a lot of different angles today. And today, on today's show, I would like to introduce you. Welcome back to all of my guests, Suki, Hits, Bav, and Kirit. And I'm going to let them do their introduction themselves. So Suki, we'll start with you.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm Suki. You probably see me on the SIKH channel. I'm a regular on Kiran's panel show. And yeah, back again this week with the panel to discuss mental health and how it affects men as well.
Hits, we'll go with you next.
Hi everyone, I'm Hits. I'm a stand-up comedian. I do a lot of work for mental health charities with my brother there, Bav. And yeah, I mean, having friends, family suffer, myself suffer mental health issues. I'm happy to be here again to talk about it.
Bav?
Hi everyone, I'm Bav, or Piano with Bav, as some of you may know me. So this one's following on from the last time I was on Kiran's panel. So it's great to be back here again this week, and hopefully we can share all of our experiences on social media and how it affects everyone.
Kirit?
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Kiran Rai. I'm a political researcher and also run a PR agency on the side. And again, just continuing on from last week's show, talking about how mental health and social media affects men and people of our community generally.
So from all of you that are actually joining in today and watching us, ਆਪਾਂ ਪਿਛਲੀ ਵੀਕ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ we had so many questions, ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਉੱਠੇ ਸੀਗੇ about social media. One of the things that we wanted to take away from that show and bring it to this show was that with social media, do men actually suffer from social media? Do they suffer actually any anxiety or any depression, any mental health issue? Do they actually suffer from it? And if they do, how do they suffer in it? And today we're going to share some of our own experiences along with our guests that are on the panel. And first of all, I'm going to go to Bav with this question.
Yeah, I mean, like I said previously, I feel that it definitely does affect men. And personally, me running my own business, and I've got a business page on Instagram, it can get stressful at times. Like sometimes I think to myself, oh, what am I going to be posting today? What am I going to post next week? And obviously, I play the piano, so I need to plan what I'm going to learn, what I'm going to record, and then as well as I work in finance as well full time, and I'm doing my ACCA exams on the side. So it's just trying to balance out everything alongside social media, and it can sometimes get very overwhelming. And I think recently, being in lockdown, not being able to go out and socialize with people, just being stuck in the house doing the same thing every day, it kind of does creep on top of you like very slowly. And I'm quite strong-headed in that sense, and I don't let it affect me. But it definitely, like, stress levels have been rising recently, and it shows that it can affect men.
Hits, what's your view on this?
Yeah, so I mean, I think with social media, I mean, Kirit said in the last show that mental health has been stemming, forever, for generations. Obviously now with social media, it's there a lot more. I think social media has a big part to play in mental health, but then again, at the same time, social media is probably the best platform to help combat mental health as well. So it's sort of clashing together. Um, but I mean, I've suffered myself during lockdown, and me being a comedian, I think it depends on your generation. We mentioned generation in the last show, what generation you are, how often you use social media. Um, but it can affect mental health. Like with Bav, he's obviously, you're trying to, he plays piano, I do comedy. We're trying to give away that perception of me being a comedian. So I'm always stressing about this stuff up on social media. Is it going to be funny? Are people going to like it? How many likes I'm going to get? Then on the other side, you get a lot of people who hate on you as well at the same time. They're like, oh, how's he doing this? How's he got that? How's he got on this many shows? How is this guy doing so many gigs? So it does get to you. And to be honest, during lockdown, I suffered. I had a low point where I was like, you know what is happening? You're in the same four walls. There was a stage where I was ill. So I had cellulitis. I got cellulitis in my leg back in February last year. So I was off work for 4 weeks. Then I had to self isolate for 2 weeks because Bav came back from Barcelona and was showing signs of COVID. Then my manager said, "Oh, don't come back into the office. We're giving you working from home equipment." So altogether, I think I worked out I wasn't working for 10 weeks. And
Mm.
inside, I was like, am I going to lose my job? So many people getting made redundant. I'm thinking, wow, if my company, if they're going to get rid of anyone, it's going to be me first. So I was going through all these emotions in my head, like, what's happening? You couldn't go out, you couldn't see people, and luckily, what me and Bav did, what worked for us, is we went back home to Leicester. We picked up all of our gym equipment that was in the garage. Rotting away in the garage. We bought it to Milton Keynes and we started exercising every day. And that straight away cleared my mind. We started going for walks, and I think exercise really helped me. But yeah, I definitely suffered during lockdown.
So with obviously everything going on, did you how did it make you feel about any negative comments or any feedback that you were getting?
I think I think we mentioned the last time you have your personal profiles and you've got your anyone who's sort of got their businesses like a lot of us here on the panel. Um, you've got to try and keep a strong head and block it out. If you're going to let things get to you, and I mean with young kids now, there's cyberbullying and stuff like that. You've got to try and block it out, and like Bav said, you just delete the comments, or any negativity, but that's all down to you, how strong-willed you are. Obviously, the more vulnerable you are, the more younger you are, it could get to you more, but I think we've learned over the years to block it out, because you're going to get that sort of publicity. Everyone is.
And Keith, what do you feel about this?
So I think when we look at mental health, in regards to mental health, if it's anxiety, depression, self-harming, any of these issues are not exclusive to social media, but social media definitely is an enabler and an enhancer. So it magnifies the problem by a large amount. When we look at the dangers of social media, I don't need to go into what the benefits of social media is because everyone on this panel especially knows that, and a lot of people out there, which is why we use it so much. But the dangers of social media, what is it that takes what it takes away from us? And what we have to look at is that when we are with people, the social interaction, when we're meeting people face to face, it nothing is more mentally healthier than that. If you're feeling a bit down, you've had a bad day at work, a conversation with someone that you trust and that you know, or you know that someone that cares about you, it's a self boost. It really lifts your spirits. Really, spending some time with people, having that physical intimacy or physical interaction with people and your loved ones, it kind of overcomes a lot of the issues that we may suffer from what we describe as mental health issues. By spending too much time on social media, what happens is we're depriving ourselves from that social interaction. We are becoming self-absorbent. Everything that we do, we get into a little bubble, and all we want to do is think about how it affects me in that moment and how we're going to be accepted. And any happiness or positivity we get from it is very fleeting. So we may get 150 likes on our pictures, 200 likes, 250 likes on our picture in Instagram, but that's not going to last. That's going to make you happy for a day and a half. And next day, like, okay, the pressure's on. I need to have another picture on Instagram which gets me the same amount of likes. And if for whatever reason, if the Instagram algorithms are not supporting you, if you get 50 likes and you've gone from 200 to 50 likes, it's just, again, that culture of comparison, and you're falling into that downward spiral. So I think what social media is doing, and the danger of it, is that it's taking away the positive interactions that we have as a society.
And Suki, what's your view on this?
Taboo, especially in our community. I still don't think people find it comfortable to see men being, if they're showing signs of depression, or if they've got anxiety, or if like I said, they are upset. I feel like, like I said, I don't sort of see it amongst my brothers, and that's probably because, like I said, they're happy with their own lives. I'm not saying that's what they're suffering from, but I don't think my brothers or my male friends would feel comfortable showing that emotion in front of me, like even some of my best friends, which does sort of worry me, because if there's something that they're going through, they need to be able to talk and feel comfortable about it. But I still think like men don't feel comfortable to show emotion. I've got a friend who, if he sees, somebody else with a nice car on like Instagram, that they post a nice car or a picture of a big house, he's like, oh my God, like what's he doing? How has he got a nice model? I feel like I need to, upgrade my car. I need a bigger house. And, and especially if they're family men, then I feel like, they're putting that unnecessary pressure on themselves, because they feel like they need a bigger house, they need a better car, they need to have, I don't know, a better body, big muscles, or whatever it is. So I feel like, I feel like we still need to sort of talk about it, and men should feel comfortable showing that emotion.
So, Suki, do you think that your brothers would confide in you if they can't confide with their mom or their dad or anyone else in the family? Do you think they'll turn to you?
I've, in the past, I've sort of, spoken to my younger brother, and I've seen him being a bit quiet to see what's wrong with him. But he's like, oh no, I'm fine, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? I feel like he feels like he needs to be strong and needs to be that macho person. But I've told him that I am there for him. And like my older brother have said, if there's any worries, if you've got any problems, speak about them. Because unfortunately, I've got, a really close family member who sadly committed suicide. And this was, many years ago, before social media was such a storm. But I know that if he was able to comfortably speak to family, it wouldn't have come to that. But the fact that, he was suffering and sadly took his own life, this is how scary it is. And this is why men, especially in our community, should feel comfortable if they've got a problem, or if they are showing signs of depression, speak to someone.
And guys, would you, if any of you or anyone else, you think, would you confide in your friends and family, or any of your friends that anybody else that do you think they would confide in you?
See, I sometimes think that it's easier to talk to someone who you aren't that close to sometimes, because sometimes we feel the internal pressures that somebody who's you're close to, or someone who's a family member, you don't want to come across very vulnerable to them. So sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger, or someone who there won't be no judgment from, or there won't be ever long lasting kind of negative feedback from. Talking from personal experience, I think I was more comfortable talking about some of my lowest points once I recovered from them. And I was very lucky and very fortunate, touch wood, to be in that position where I was able to, recover from some of my lowest points. I would never feel comfortable whilst I'm in that low point, whilst I'm in my valleys, because life is full of peaks and valleys. But when you're in that valley, when you're at the lowest point, I didn't feel comfortable talking to anyone. None of my closest friends, none of my family members, not even ringing one of those hotline numbers or talking to someone advisor on the other side of the phone, because I was just keen to make sure that I want this, this external facade that I'm happy, I'm bubbly, I'm happy to go out. I wasn't willing to compromise with that. I only started sharing it. Even now, when I do talk about it, this is probably the first time I'm talking about it on on television channel, but there's very few people I've mentioned this to in a one-to-one conversation, and I've only been able to do that since I've recovered and I can look back on it. Unfortunately, the situation is that many people aren't able to recover, and as I know people who unfortunately have taken their own life or started self-harming, and it's because they do not able to see how they're going to get out of that rut, out of that hole that they find themselves in. So I think what we need to do as a community, as a society, is really elevate the pressure of those who find themselves in the hole, that this is where you need to talk about, this is where it's going to help you. It's great that some people have been able to recover and they can talk about it now, but as a past experience, that will inspire hopefully people who are living it in the present.
So, what are the things that helped you recover, Kid? How did you overcome all of the things that you did? What steps did you actually take?
One of the things that really helped me was my relationship with my own faith. I was born into a religious family, but I don't think I was that personally kind of spiritual. I went through my own journey of spirituality and religion and my faith and my relationship with my guru. But I think during my lowest points, I found myself, and I have to put hands up, and I alienated myself as well, because the more, if you're an island, the less people are likely to learn about your vulnerability or look at what the reality is in behind that mask of always smiling or always being happy. And I think a visit to Darbar Sahib in Amritsar in 2015 really turned things around for me, and some of the sangat I kept there. Now, I was a complete stranger at Darbar Sahib, and use this in any context you will, really, because it doesn't have to be Darbar Sahib. It could be any special place that you feel is important to you. But for myself, Darbar Sahib, I've always had a special affinity to it. I was surrounded by strangers. It was a solo trip to India. I wasn't too sure exactly why I was there. I just felt a certain urge. But being around people who were strangers, who had nothing but kind words, and willingness to listen and open up, I just felt myself being less protective about my vulnerability, being in the surroundings, being surrounded by people who I knew there was no judgment from. It kind of, let me open up and let me recover. It let me see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it doesn't matter if it's a spiritual place or a holy place, or if it's just a group of people. The company you keep, and this applies on social media as well, the company you keep matters. Jaisi Sangat, Vaisi Rangat, as we elders used to say. So I think it's really important to remember that.
And a question to Bav and Hits: do you think it's from a guy's point of view? Do you think because we have to portray this image almost being a macho man? Do you think guys find it really embarrassing to be vulnerable and open up to anyone around you? Do you think it almost conflicts on ourselves to think, oh, if we open up to somebody, whether that's someone close to us, we're going to get judged, and we're going to be looked down in a certain way? How does that come across, and do you think it's important to even talk about it, even if it's not someone close but someone else?
I mean, I completely agree. I agree with exactly what Kiran said. If I ever suffer from any mental health issues, personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable talking to. I don't know why, but I just wouldn't feel comfortable talking to someone too close to me, because, like Kiran said, they know all about you, which can obviously be good in one sense. But for me, I feel like they're a bit too close to me, and I'd rather talk to a stranger or someone I don't know so well. It's a bit weird when you think about it as well, because you're going to talk about your mental health issues to someone that you've probably never met before, or just met a few times. But there's only a few people that I know that I would be comfortable to talk to, and they're nowhere near as close as family and friends.
Yeah, it's like you said. It's like you said, Bav, because how people know you. Like my perception, the way people perceive me. Oh, Hit's that happy-go-lucky guy, the funny guy. Yeah, he's always having a laugh here and there. So if then you then turn around to him and be like, yeah, I'm really suffering mentally, they're going to be like, whoa, where's the happy-go-lucky guy? Do you know what I mean? So Bav's right in a sense, and it took me a while to tell Bav, and we live together. It took me a while to tell him, Bav, I'm a bit low at the moment. I'm feeling a bit lost. And that's when Bav said, "Oh, we need to start exercising again,"
Yeah,
and we
especially
started
when
weight training and stuff. But even I felt like a bit embarrassed to tell Bav, "Oh, Bav, I'm suffering, I'm suffering a little bit here." But I think it stems down to back in the, generations ago, where males are the protectors, the warriors, we're the breadwinners. And it comes from that, where men and the whole macho thing is, that where that stems from. So, we're trying to, we're like, hold on a second. I mean, we've got a family here to look after. I'm supposed to be the protector of my family. I can't then be vulnerable to these guys who they're going to look up to. So that's where it becomes difficult for a guy. But you've just got to try and get past that. Like Kirat said, um, it may be better. You may be better. I think everyone's different. You may be better off talking to a stranger. I'm getting more and more comfortable now. I can tell, but even like it took me a while to tell Bav. But like social media is doing a lot now, and now I kind of tell my story through, um, you know, doing these gigs for mental health charities, and putting it out there on social media about people having to open up. But from a guy's point of view, I don't know what it is. It is really hard to speak up.
I,
But the advice I can give
I
people is you've got to do it. You've got to speak up, otherwise it's going to eat you up inside.
I think
Mm.
there's an element of I think there's an element of people or we thinking that people just don't care. We sometimes
Mm,
believe like, look at these people, they're just happy and they're successful. Why would they
mm,
care if I even approach them with my problems? And I think that's
mm,
where we have to play a double role here. We also have to be confident, self-confident in the fact that there are people who genuinely are like angels in our lives who do care, who will go to the end of the earth to help us, but also, what are we doing to give that same reassurance to the people around us? Are we sharing a kind word? Are we making sure what we consider the impact of our words, both online, the written word, and the words that we speak? How does that impact the people around us? And if we're not able to reassure them that you're fine now, I get it, but if you ever don't feel fine. It's okay not to feel okay. And I'm only a phone call away.
mm.
I'm only just, a WhatsApp message away. And if we're not reassuring the people around us, then we're just as bad as those who might be cyberbullying or making those negative comments because we're
Mm.
enabling and enhancing these problems.
I
So,
feel like
you,
I feel like recently, like what Kiran is saying, I feel like people have now started, because for me personally, there's loads of mental health stuff on social media, and like Hit said, me and Hits do quite a few gigs for charities and to raise awareness for mental health. And a couple of years ago, I'd never be called up by someone to come and perform at an event in a nice venue where they've got loads of people like donating money to charity and raising awareness for mental health. So it does show that social media
Yeah,
is trying to push across, for people to make them aware of mental health issues and things. But I don't know. I mean, I still feel like there's so much more work to be done, in
agreed here.
society.
I think if you remember after the death of Robbie Williams, he was like one of the greatest comedians in Hollywood. He was
mm,
loved the world
Mm,
over. And he was found, and then we later found out that he suffered from depression and anxiety, and he was on a downward spiral. I think that really opened things up. And there's a lot of charities within our own community, within our own society, that are doing some great work. But when you see celebrities, people who are large influencers, then open up and say, you know what, I suffer from mental health. I'm going through this dark patch. It really kind of makes us feel like solidarity. That
yeah.
if it can happen to them, then it's normal for someone like me to feel it as well. So I agree with Bav that there's been a surge of charities that have come forward and groups and events that help with mental health. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of some of those people that we already lost,
Mm,
but let's just hope that it just saves people's lives in the future.
so then my question is, if we look at mental health, one way or another, it affects everyone, right? But for especially for men, is vulnerability, do they look at vulnerability thinking, oh God, if I'm classed as vulnerable, then it makes me look very weak. In actual fact, when vulnerability is one of the being vulnerable is a strong thing because it's also emotion that's part of us, that's part of human nature to feel. So do you think being vulnerable as a guy, do you think that's seen as a negative from everyone else's point of view, guys?
I can definitely
yeah, I
see
think
why that is the case. especially within our Asian community. You know, some of the elders, you know, if somebody said, "Kamzor hai tu," Kamzor, that stings just a little bit differently from all the other insults that you could give somebody. Whether it's mentally or physically, it kind of stings a little bit more because nobody wants to be seen as weak. And because we don't want to be seen weak, we do everything in our power to prove a facade of like we're stronger, we're a bit more not vulnerable. But that's just covering the problem. That's putting your head in the sand, not sorting the problem out.
And
So
it's a bit like
signs, they don't actually know if they are sort of suffering. You know, they again, I don't know, you know, if you guys, I mean, Gita, like you mentioned, you know, you've through this. Like, how did you know you were going through that breakdown? What were the signs when you knew? How did you realize? Okay, you know what, this is when I know I need help. I need to speak to someone. Like, what were the signs? How do you know it wasn't just you having an off day? Like somebody saying, oh, you know what, change of scene, go to the friends, you know, go play football or something, and it might cheer me up. But how do you know if it's becoming a problem and you do need that help?
Personally, like generally, I would say that people don't know what they're going through until they seek help or assistance, even if that's a conversation or even Googling symptoms or Googling on, you know, on the internet, like this is what I'm feeling. What could this be a cause of? For a large part of me, I just saw myself change. What I used to feel happy about, what used to bring me happiness, I just felt it didn't anymore. And I'll be honest with
Yeah,
you, it took me some time to realize, like getting out, I couldn't be CBA to get out of out of bed in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I used to be very social. I used to be on the drop of a hat. Used to be around everywhere. Used to go see people. Used to be very socially a social butterfly. I just didn't want to. It
yeah,
gave me just anxieties of being out and about. And I just thought it was just off there. You know, I can't be bothered today. I don't want to do it today. But when those
yeah,
days become quite regular and there's less gap, there's less good days than bad days, and they're far in between. You just start, it's just a siren in your head, and you know what's going on, but then it takes a bit of time for you to figure out, like, okay, do I want to do something about this? I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to do anything about it for a long time. I just felt if it's happening, it's happening. The way it came, it will go out by itself as well. And I didn't want to do anything actively to get rid of those feelings. Um, but yeah, it'll be different for everyone, but
yeah,
you'll recognize some signs, and it's not just you, the people around you, they'll see the signs as well. And it's important that we learn to recognize some of these signs.
definitely, definitely.
so
They're
a
doing a lot more.
question
I
then.
think guys are doing a lot more though, aren't they? Guys are actually opening up a lot more now. I mean, we wouldn't have this, you know, years ago. But so it
Yeah.
is good. And Garrett, stories like yours, you know, I've got stories. Yeah, we've just got to keep on opening up, and I think it's getting better and better now, which is a good sign.
So, guys, do you think it's from a male's aspect? Do you think it's embarrassing to you know let your other half know? So, if you've got other halves or you're with family or anything, do you think it's embarrassing to tell them what's going on? And if they make any comments or anything like that, does it affect you? Even if you don't know what you're going through, does it affect you? Does it make it worse?
I don't think it's embarrassing, because those people closer to you are gonna be the ones that are gonna re help you get out of it. If you don't tell your parents or your or siblings, they're the ones who make you, you know, who make you happy. That you know, who make you happiest. Your parents, especially. I don't know what it is with myself. I know if I'm feeling down, sometimes I always think of my parents and think, oh, if I was with my mum and dad right now, it will be so much better. Mum will make me laugh, and do you know what I mean? It's that comfort. It's that sort of comfort factor. Um, you know, but I reckon you've got to you've got to open up. I mean, if you open up to the ones closest to you, they're the ones who know you the best. They're the ones who are going to eventually know how to get you out of it. And that's what I think. It's
Yeah.
not embarrassing at
See,
all.
I think it's really hard sometimes to explain to someone else what's going on between your two ears when you don't realize it
Yeah.
yourself, when you don't know, you don't understand it yourself. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਤਾਂ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਸਮਝਾਵਾਂਗਾ ਹੈ so you just feel like it's better to just stay shush. It's much easier, less dramas. ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਇਆ ਸੀ ਉਦਾਂ ਚਲੇ ਜਾਊਗਾ. You have these thoughts and it's easier. Um, not just mental health, but every aspect of life. We seek excuses, we seek shortcuts. It's human nature for men and women. Mental health is no different than that. Bahanne hunde hain. We've got so bahanne hain from excusing ourselves from it or avoiding talking about it. Even if I wasn't embarrassed to talk about it, and I'll be honest with you, and I'm so happy to hear Hit say that he's got that, like, it's not embarrassing. I just felt at that time I was, and I think with time people have progressed. But even if I wasn't embarrassed, I wouldn't know how to explain it. And I think I like writing, I enjoy writing, and that was one of my expressive ways that I started expressing myself. But even that came at a much later stage for me. I just didn't know how to explain what was happening between my own two ears to someone else. आप नहीं समझ आएगी वो कितना समझेंगे, and that's a genuine worry.
I think that basically we just need, as men, we just need to understand that you need to understand that you've got people around you, you've got family and friends that you need to talk to. So I know it is embarrassing, but you kind of need to forget about that side of things and just realize that you need someone there to comfort you, and the best person to provide that comfort is your close ones, is your family, and that's something that I think men find hard to do. And hopefully, over the years and over the next generations, is something that we can learn to do. Obviously, like I said before, there's loads of mental health awareness charities and events that go on nowadays. Like Kiran's show right now wouldn't have been happening 5-10 years ago. So there's it's happening, but it's not there yet. And I think that's hopefully in the next 10-15 years, we'll be talking about this from a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree. And that comment talking about, we're going to round the topic up agle hafte fir leke avange isi show nu, and I hope what we spoke about today actually help all you guys actually watching. We last just ਪਿਛਲੀ week ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਜਵਾਬ ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ, ਐਂਡ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉੱਠੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਤਾਂ ਇਸ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਸਵਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਜਵਾਬ ਮਿਲੇ ਨੇ. Hope this has helped you one way or another. ਤਾਂ ਦੂਰ ਫਿਰ ਨਾ ਜਾਏ, ਆਪਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਮਿਲਾਂਗੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ, ਫਿਰ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ, ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. And I think it's really important, one of the couple of things to take away from from today's show is that don't just sit there in silence and suffer on your own. It's okay to feel what you feel, and it's okay to go and talk to anyone that's around you, especially your family, because jo parvar hunda hai oh thadi madad kar sakde ne. Even if you don't know what you're going through, you don't want to discuss it, that's fine. If you don't want to speak to anyone else about it, like you were saying, he likes writing, you could also write and get it out of your system. So for today's show, I hope that actually helped you. Thank you, Kirit and Bav, Hit and Suki for coming on today's show. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And अगले हफ्ते फिर आवांगे. वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा तो वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह.